Linda Moulton Howe was on Mike Murphy's radio show. And I called in and offered her the same information. And no, she was doing her thing. She never called back. She never wanted any of this information. So I went to the Ozarks later on, meeting there, and saw Linda Moulton Howe. And I said, I just wanted to see what you looked like, and that was all. She was doing her own thing, and still does her own thing, not related to my incidents at all, and she wasn't interested. So nobody was really interested at all. But when I was graduated from Long Beach, I worked at North American, and I worked at Burbank and Lockheed. I worked on the Blackbird. And then from there, I went to Motorola and worked as a scientific computer specialist for an analog group, Ed Groth by name. This is kind of interesting, too. Ed said that the electronic people had told him that they had made a 120 to 150-year jump. I said, how? And he said, by backward engineering a foreign object. I said, Russian? He said he didn't know where it came from, but it was backward engineered. About a week later, an electrical engineer told me that the guys who were doing the backward engineering had said that what they were backward engineering was a computer. And this computer carried 30 digits of accuracy. Where do you need 30 digits of accuracy? Only terrestrial. Only interstellar. You don't need it on this Earth. From there, I went back to Collins Radio. And from Collins Radio, I went to Houston working for Lockheed's Missile and Space. I worked on the trainers. And while I was there at the trainers, it was very interesting because another incident took place. Wally Schirra worked in the same office that I did, only he had a view of the outside. I worked in an inside cubicle. It wasn't very nice, okay, by comparison. The astronauts, and this is hearsay because I was not there, but I was told by somebody that did. The astronauts were told that they should not talk about any kitchen items flying, like pancakes, dishes, or cups. Saucers were not mentioned. Do you understand what I mean? He said. You're not to talk about this among yourselves, your wives, your family, or anyone by radio or on the radio. Oh, yeah. Okay. Wally Schirra is up in space, circling the Earth, and he says, Houston, there is a Santa Claus. The boys went around the moon, came back out from the far side, and another astronaut said, there is a Santa Claus, and he's big. Now, how big he was, I never figured out until I heard at Laughlin this year that 2 Navy men had seen a craft come out of the water about a mile and a half away from them that was 3 to 5 times the size of an aircraft carrier. That's big. It carries about 10,000 people. The question is whether it's ours or theirs. Okay? Now, the verification of my story at Holloman was done by Art Campbell, and Art has recorded information of a woman whose father became a fireman. So, if you want, Art?
Yeah. We will put on the electrician's daughter, please. This lady contacted me as a result of an article in the UFO magazine.
And I got some. I brought out some memorabilia stuff to show you. Oh, here's Billy. Yeah, that's my
brother. Going to her personal memorabilia prior to reading a letter from
when
father.
Dad was in the single corps at Camp Gordon, and he loved to climb his poles. There he is with his friend Jim, and that he was practicing going up and down. And there he is again working at cleaning the weapons and getting message pickup. And here's some of his Nebraska fan memorabilia that he loved so much. And he had this with him he had a few plane crashes, and he always had this picture with him. He was very fond of his religion. And this is a current events school newspaper that we used to get every week. This was in the week of February to March 2nd of 1956, and it was showing these Air Force balloons that were going up. It was every other day in Hollerman. We used to just run around and we didn't know that there was anything exciting to know about it. We just thought it was very normal. Oh, and here's some pictures. My dad loved also to do photography, and here is this is Dad it was with Nixon and Agnew in 1972, and this is in Omaha. Nixon was here in Omaha in 1970, and he got invited to the inaugural ball. And he didn't have his flash, and he was so upset. But there is his own picture, and he was quite involved with the party. He used to fly the Republicans locally when he moved here in the late '60s. He flew the party members to meetings over southeast Nebraska, and then when Nixon came, he flew the Republican National Committee members in 1970 when they were stumping for Nixon, and he suggested that they talk about the Nebraska football because they played in the Orange Bowl in '69 for the national championship, and so Nixon started his speech in Omaha with Dad's idea about bringing up football, and he also played in Tarkio because he was a stocky person. He loved his football. But anyway, there's some other things here. So I've got some letters right here. I'm sure I'll find that one. Yeah, here's the one that Mom and Dad wrote. Okay, that's Auburn, Nebraska, October 26, 1989. Dear kids, it's beautiful fall here with the usual pumpkins up and down the main drag. Kids are getting excited. Your father and I are doing well. Heard from Helen. She said the grandchild came on time, and although Sharon was in labor, you don't need to talk about that. Anyway, Dad has just come from the kitchen with a cup of coffee, and he says he doesn't mind telling the fireman story again, but you kids know it better after all these years. But he'll recall what he can. All right, this is the part. Well, you kids and Mom moved down from Albuquerque. I think it was in the summer of 1954. As you recall, I had taken the Hollerman job that previous winter, and Mom wanted us all together, so we rented a place over near Dudley Elementary School on Maryland, wasn't it? Remember, you kids could walk to school. You were in the 4th grade, and Billy was in 1st or 2nd. Anyhow, sometime after Christmas of '55, we were told President Eisenhower was coming. So George, our boss then at the electric shop, went to a meeting to find out more. He would not be inspecting anything, and they said just carry on as usual. If you see the president, don't gawk, wave, or anything, just carry on. So the day the president came, we went out in the truck to a job where we were replacing some wire down the flight line. It was really old stuff, but that put there in World War II, and safe. So we heard the president's plane in the morning, lining up for an approach, and watched it land on the far runway. So we waited for it to taxi over to the flight line so we could see him. But we didn't hear it anymore, and it had shut down somewhere out there. So we went ahead and pulled wire for a while, and one of the men, I believe it was Charlie, said he can see out there from that pole over there. So why don't one of us go up the pole and see where the plane is? Well, I had my climbers on, and I started to unbuckle them and was waiting to give them to the first volunteer, when someone said I should do it as people were used to seeing me up on the poles anyway. So I started up with my back to the sun, a safety measure, which also put my back to the runway where we thought his Connie was. Connie was a nickname for the big constellation the president flew. As I started up, some of the guys reminded me not to gawk, and I heard them laugh. A few minutes later, I heard some shouting, and some guys tarring a hangar roof nearby started to run, pointing out to the runways. Then I heard our truck start up, and some of the crew jumped in with one or two running after it.